welcome back to Beyond the Campfire. If you have not encountered us before, we are Will and Steven. We're a cowboy and Indian that talks about ghosts, conspiracy theories, cryptids, and all the like. So, conspiracy cryptids. I wonder what that might be.
We've been doing this for 2 years, man. Come on now.
I know, right? Yeah, I can't be slipping up. So, yeah, if you want to follow us, you can find us on X, TikTok, and Instagram at Beyond Campfire or at Beyond Campfire Podcast. So be sure to tune in and see us go on crazy tales and adventures. With that said, Will, what do we got for us today?
Well, today we got a pretty straightforward episode of a very mysterious death that has occurred in Australia. So today we got a kind of a conspiracy mystery going on. We're going to be talking about the Tamám Shud case. Have you ever heard the Tamám Shud case?
I actually have not. So yeah, I looked into it a little bit when you first mentioned it, and I was like, okay, I'll let him kind of explain it to me. But yeah, what did the case entail?
Well, so to start it off, let us take an early morning stroll on the beach. Maybe we'll get a glimpse of the sunrise. Very romantic, right? Just taking a walk on the beach, right? Well, what if you found a body while on this stroll? Just a dead body.
Yeah, no, I would be freaked out for sure. That's not something you usually see on a...
No. Well, what if I told you that's exactly what happened? A couple was strolling on the beach when they spotted a body, and they called the police. And this was on December 1st, 1948. It occurred at 6:30 in the morning. Police were contacted after a couple spotted a body that looked like it washed up on shore. This occurred in Somerton Park, about 7 miles southwest of Adelaide, South Australia. That's where another name comes from. It's called the Tamám Shud case, but they also call it the Somerton Man. That's another name for it. It's the Somerton Man or the Tamám Shud case. The body was found laying in the sand. It was located across from a crippled children's home. His head was resting against the seawall, and he was kind of laid out. And so his legs were stretched out in front of him, and they were crisscross applesauce, and he was just dead. And the police are like, well, it kind of looks like he died while he was sleeping, because the way he was kind of positioned, it wasn't like he was just laying on the ground, he's kind of propped up, like he was kind of cozy, taking a little nap. Upon investigation into the body, they noticed that on the right collar of his coat, there was a half-smoked cigarette. When they searched his pockets, they found a second-class train ticket from Adelaide to Henley Beach. It wasn't used, so he obviously didn't get a chance to use the train. There was also a city bus ticket that he may not have been able to use either. There's a thin aluminum comb that was made in the United States, so somehow he had a comb from America in his pocket. And then he also had a half-empty pack of juicy fruit gum. There's an Army Club cigarette pack holding 7 cigarettes. But here's the funny thing. They were not Army Club cigarettes. They were Consettas. So he had, it was almost like if you had a Marlboro pack and you put Newports in it, Weird stuff.
Yeah, that's odd. That's very strange.
And he also had a matchbox from Bryant and May that was about a quarter full. So he had some, it's very interesting stuff in his pockets. Obviously you got your cigarettes, but it's like I said, it's not just normal cigarettes. He had a pack of cigarettes, and then there was different cigarettes in it. Had a comb from America. And again, this was in Australia. And it gets weirder because it's not just the contents of his pockets that were weird, which there was another thing in his pockets that was found later, which we'll get to in just a second. But real quickly, according to the pathologist, John Burton Cleland, kind of described the man. He appeared to be what he called a Britisher. So we're around 40 to 45 years old. And he was in top physical condition, peak masculinity, right? He stood about 5'11", had gray eyes and fair, almost ginger-colored hair. It was kind of starting to gray around the temples. He had broad shoulders, a narrow waist, the kind of build you don't get by accident. So obviously this guy was hitting the gym. He's one of them gym bros, drinking his little protein shakes. His hands were clean, his nails unmarked, and there was no signs of manual labor whatsoever. So, like, if they looked at my body, they would see on my hands that I have calluses up near my fingers, and that shows that I've done physical labor. But he did not have anything like that to kind of show that he was a physical laborer. Anything before I continue? Any questions?
Yeah, it was interesting at first because, I was like, although it is unusual to find a dead body on your stroll, I was like, homeless people are dead sometimes. So I was just like, what's so special about this guy? What's different that it warrants a podcast episode from us on? But yeah, now that you're describing these weird circumstances, the comb from America, the cigarettes kind of in the wrong box, like, like these are really,
and it's not like it's not even just like a normal, like when you say homeless guy, you think of like a shriveled kind of old looking hunchback,
right?
Kind of been starved a little bit. But this guy was peak fitness, like like this guy had been hitting the gym. Like, I mean, he was in his mid to late 40s, but he was like fit and well maintained, well groomed.
I was gonna say homeless people they're not usually jacked. Actually, I don't think I've ever met one jacked homeless person in my life.
There's that one jacked homeless guy that somehow got a telephone and is listening to our podcast right now, and he's
I know, yeah,
throwing that phone against the wall, and he's like, "Dang it, now I can't get another one."
Right. Oh boy. So but yeah. Anyway, long story short, it's like highly unusual circumstances.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, it gets a little crazier. Because what really stood out to the pathologist was his feet and legs. His big toe and little toe met in a wedge type of shape, something you kind of would expect to see in a dancer, someone used to wearing pointed boots. And his calf muscles were unusually pronounced. They say sometimes you kind of see this in people who wore boots with high heels or even ballet shoes. Kind of weird. He was dressed neatly. He had a white shirt on, a red, white, and blue tie, brown trousers, polished shoes, a brown knitted pullover, and a fashionable gray and brown double-breasted jacket. And it was tailored in and was described as an American style. So he had this nice coat on, and it's not just like a normal coat. Like, he had to be tailored, fitted to this coat, and it was very American looking. So it's very strange. But here's the thing. Every single label in his clothing was cut out. Yeah.
Cut out?
Yeah, like the tags were cut out.
Huh. Weird. Okay. So
maybe he got itchy.
I guess.
You
Yeah.
ever
You get a little flap in the back like that.
Yeah, you get the little tag back there and it just kind of itches, and then you got like tear the tag out.
Okay.
Yeah. So also he had no hat, which is apparently strange for 1948 because back then every guy would wear the nice suits and the little hats, right? But he didn't have a hat, no hat. And he had no wallet, so there's no way to identify this guy based off that. He was clean shaven, and there's nothing on him to say who he was. So like his tags were ripped out of his clothing. He was very nicely dressed, but no wallet, nothing to identify this guy just based off of that. So, and when investigators tried to trace him through dental records, guess what?
What?
Nothing.
Huh? Really?
They couldn't trace him through dental records.
What?
There's no matches, no missing person, no name. It's just a man in perfect condition with no past anyone could find.
That is really weird.
Wow. Isn't that strange? Like imagine being that couple who's just sitting there and you're like walking on the beach and you just see this body, and then it turns out to be this mystery guy that nobody has any clue who he is. His tags of his clothes are cut out. He's got an American comb. He's kind of dressed American a little bit. He's got no identification. Dental records don't prove anything. Yeah, it's pretty strange.
I'm watching. I started that show you recommended, True Detective.
Oh yeah.
So I'm watching the first season. I'm about a couple of episodes in, but they're kind of just having a hard time with the whole case.
You know what's something interesting? Because you mentioned True Detective. This is going off topic.
Sure, yeah.
But somebody says that once you have heard about the Epstein files, the True Detective starts lining up with the Epstein files a little bit.
Oh, really?
So kind of pay attention to that when you watch True Detective.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny that you're watching it. There was a couple of things I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was watching the episodes, and I was just like, huh. I was like, some of this kind of feels like what's going on with the episode because if you want to watch the show one day, maybe don't listen, but like in episode 2, they go to this like brothel to
Yeah.
investigate. It's a lot of like underage girls, and it seems like there's like some implied government involvement. Like the
Mhm.
government's kind of they're either running it or they know about it and they're kind of just tolerating it,
Yeah.
like tolerating like these kids being
Mhm.
used. So
Now,
I
what I
enjoy
will
that
say.
part of the show. I'm gonna kind of see more as
Now, here's what I'll say about the True Detective is season 1 is the only season you need to watch. Season 2, it's all right, but you know, season 3, Maddie and I never really got through it because we just kind of stopped watching. But
Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. Like they're phenomenal.
oh, they're great. They should have got an Emmy for it. Like
For sure. Because I've seen them in other movies, but like their performance right
well,
now.
I think what's crazy is like when you think of like Woody Harrelson, it's like you don't think of him in like serious roles.
Yeah, he's from like the what's that horror movies or the mockery of them?
Zombieland.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
he's from those,
Yeah.
but like here he is in a serious role. You know, it's interesting.
Hmm.
I know him mostly from Hunger Games.
Yeah.
You know, it's like yeah, a lot of people know him from those movies. So anyway, that was a little bit of a side tangent, but yeah. So for what you're describing, I almost feel like this is kind of a True Detective type thing
Yeah.
going. So.
Now, here's where it's going to get a little interesting because I'm fixing to mention again about his pockets in just a second. But real quickly, I'm going to mention what the John Burton, again, that was the pathologist who did the autopsy. This is what he wrote about the autopsy. This is his wording. He says the heart was of normal size and normal in every way. Small vessels not commonly observed in the brain were easily discernible with congestion. There's congestion of the pharynx, and the gullet was covered with whitening of superficial layers of the mucosa with a patch of ulceration in the middle of it. The stomach was deeply congested. There was congestion in the second half of the duodenum. There's blood mixed in with the food in the stomach. Both kidneys were congested. The liver contained a great excess of blood in its vessels. The spleen was strikingly large, about 3 times normal size. There was destruction of the center of liver lobules revealed on the microscope, acute gastrous hemorrhaging, extensive congestion of the liver and spleen, and the congestion to the brain. Probably some medical persons listening to that, like, oh, I get what you're talking about, but if you're like us, all you need to know is that his spleen was 3 times his normal size for some weird reason, and his stomach was congested with like blood and stuff.
Yeah, I just listened to all of that. I'm like, that's really weird.
So basically, what was found out from that was that the autopsy also had shown that his last meal was a pasty. If you don't know what a pasty is, it's basically it's called a Cornish pasty or an ogie, and it's a British baked turnover pastry. So it's just a British pastry. That was found out to be his last meal. That was eaten about 3 to 4 hours before his death. However, tests failed to reveal any foreign substance in the body. The pathologist John Dreyer, he concluded and said, I am quite convinced the death could not have been natural. The poison, I suggest, was a barbiturate or soluble hypnotic. And that's what remained the main suspicion of what killed this guy, was that a lot of people thought it was poison. However, they do not think that the pasty was not believed to be the source of the poison. So the pasty he had before. I hate saying pasty because all I can think about is nipple pasties.
Well, when you said it, that's what I was thinking of at
He
first.
ate some nipple pasties. He went to like some strip club and licked the pasties off that nipple.
Well, at first when you said that's what was the last thing he was eating, I was like, why? What? I was like, why would he eat that?
After this, speaking of,
But then you explained it was something else. But
yeah,
that was my first.
yeah, it's like a British pastry. After this, have you seen? Because when we mentioned nipple pasties, Maddie's been going off on this a little bit. Did you see Chappelle Roan, her outfit to the Grammys?
No, I didn't. Was she? Was
I
she?
would look it up incognito.
Okay. I'll. You know what?
She had a dress, and the dress was like hooked to her boobs, but it was like she had pasties on, I think. But it's like trying to figure out if she was actually showing her tits off or not.
Okay.
But
I'll take your word for it, but that is a very bizarre. She wore that to the what? To the Grammys?
yeah, the Grammys. Is that what recently is the
Yeah,
name
yeah.
of the
That's the
Grammys? There's too many of these shows.
Look, I know the Grammys have very low standards, but was that even allowed for her to even wear that?
I don't know. Apparently, Billie Eilish can get up there and say, "We're living on stolen land," and then everybody's like, "Well, give back your mansion."
Yeah, not to get too political, but I think there's like a Native American tribe that was like,
Yeah, they're like, "Give us your house, okay?"
yeah, they're like, okay, they're like, yeah, we'll take your mansion. Yeah,
Could you imagine that? Thinking like you're standing up for something, and then like it backfires, and it's like, "Well, we'll take the house, sure."
I know, right? So
The res needs money.
ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So, um, yeah. So that's basically the guy. We're gonna get a little bit more into the more mystery, but to kind of sum it up for you, this clean-looking guy who was very professional dressed, washed up on the shore. There has been no definitive answer on what his cause of death was. A lot of people suspect it was poison, although the poison could not be identified. So here's where things get a little bit crazy. Okay. Weeks later, the case went from strange to legendary. Inside, it found in a hidden in a secret pocket in the man's pants was a rolled up scrap of paper. And this is where I'm going to get my wording wrong, but this is where the name Tamám Shud comes from, the case name, because written on that piece of paper was Tamám Shud. And if you don't know what that is, it means in Persian, it is finished or the end.
That's kind of eerie because one of the last words of Jesus Christ on the cross was "It is finished," right? So you have that says it either means it is finished or the end. Like that's pretty eerie over there.
Yeah.
And in Persian, so that's
Yeah.
really this is in Australia. He's got an American comb. You got this Persian stuff going on. Who is this guy?
Yeah. So before that happened, though, on January 14th, 1949, shortly after the guy's death, of course, staff at the Adelaide railway station, they found a brown suitcase. And guess what? The label was removed.
Just no way to tell who this guy is. Crazy.
Yes. So it's believed that the bag had been checked into the station cloakroom after 11 a.m. on November 30th, 1948, the day before the guy showed up. Many people believe that it was the suitcase of the man that was found on the beach. In the case were a red checked dressing gown, a size 7 red felt pair of slippers, 4 pairs of underwear, pajamas, shaving cream, shaving razor, a light brown pair of trousers with sand in the cuffs, an electrician's screwdriver, a table knife cut down into a short, sharp instrument, a pair of scissors with sharpened points, a small square of zinc, thought to have been used as a protective sheath for the knife and scissors, and a stenciling brush, as used by third officers on merchant ships for stenciling cargo. If you don't know what a stencil brush is, like when you're like, you remember when you're a kid and you had those like little plastic things and you put them on the paper and then you would like draw into them.
Yeah,
that's a stenciling brush.
So okay.
So yeah, all this weird. So first off, he had weird things on him, and apparently had weird things in his suitcase.
Yeah, and the number one question is, who is this guy? What's going on? Like, it's just this whole thing is just really bizarre,
So, let's see. There was an inquest. If you don't know that, it's a judicial inquiry in common law into the man's death. It was conducted by Coroner Thomas Cleland. It was commenced a few days following the discovery of the body, but was adjourned until the June 17th of 1949. So the guy died and was discovered dead in 1948 on December 1st. And they tried to put an inquiry into the discovery of this, but it wasn't really allowed till June of that year. Cleland, as the investigating pathologist, he re-examined the body and made a number of new discoveries. He noted that the man's shoes were remarkably clean and appeared to have been recently polished rather than in the condition expected of a man who had apparently been wandering around the town all day. He added that this evidence fitted in with the theory that the body may have been taken to Somerton Beach after the man's death. So there was, the day before the death, there was a bunch of different eyewitnesses who came forward, and they claimed to have seen the guy sleeping on the bed, like a guy walking on the beach and sleeping. There was also some claims that they had seen a man carrying another man. So that's why some people think that he probably didn't die on the beach, that someone else carried him to the beach. And that's what the coroner found out in the inquiry in June 17th, was that he added that the evidence fitted in with a theory that the body may have been taken to Somerton Park. This was accounted for the lack of evidence of vomiting and convulsions, which are the two main physiological reactions to poison. So if he truly was poisoned, when they found him on the beach, there was no vomiting or nothing that would indicate that he was poisoned, which has led a lot of people to believe that because the shoes were polished and all of this, that somebody had killed him elsewhere and dumped the body. So he speculated that because none of the witnesses could possibly identify the man they saw the previous night, the same person discovered the next morning, there remained the possibility the man had died elsewhere and had been dumped. So early in the inquiry, Cleland stated, "I would be prepared to find that he died from poison, that the poison was probably a glucide, and that it was not accidentally administered. But I cannot say whether it was administered by the deceased himself or by some other person." Cleland remarked that the body had been carried to his final resting place, then all the difficulties would disappear. So at the time, around the same time as the inquest, that was when that tiny piece of paper showed up that said Tamám Shud. And again, it's like, so they found out that the words were actually traced to the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, which is a book of poetry. Okay, so
it seems like he's quoting some Persian literature now.
Yeah, so he tore a page out of a Persian poem book and was murdered, and then possibly was dumped. And it's still like, what's going on? So police eventually did find the copy of the book. They found it tossed in the backseat of a nearby car. Now, this specific copy, the reason why they know that this was possibly the book was because the last page was torn out, which was the Tamám Shud page, which had those words. And there was inside of it was a handwritten code with lines of seemingly random letters, and as well had a phone number inside of it. And by the way, to this day, we cannot conclude exactly what the code says. They've tried cracking the code and cannot figure anything out about this code. But there is a theory about the code when we get to theories. So upon finding the phone number, this led the police to a woman living nearby. She was a nurse named Justine, which was a pseudonym. Apparently, she had once given this book to a man during World War II. The strange thing about it was when the police took the body, they made a bust of him, of like what he looked like, and they showed her the bust of this guy, and apparently she freaked out and almost fainted. But then she denied knowing the guy.
Weird. Okay, so she freaked out from seeing his bust, and then from there she's saying, "Oh, I don't know who this is."
Yeah.
Huh. It's just getting weirder and weirder.
It gets weirder. It gets weirder. Now, later, it was found out that her son had a rare ear and dental traits that also might have appeared in the Somerton Man, traits that are very uncommon. So that's all we kind of had. After that, it just was trying to investigate, trying to figure out, kind of hitting more dead ends. No one could really crack the code. So yeah, we got this dead guy who probably was dumped, was poisoned somewhere else. We got this woman who's somehow connected, a book, and nobody knows what happened to this guy. So I'm going to run through some quick theories. There's like 3 theories, and then I've got some actual updated information because unlike you remember like with the Ark of the Covenant and all that, when we did those episodes at the time, we didn't really know anything. And now we do like the Ark of the Covenant with the CIA. This one we actually do have updated information. So the theories are, we'll start with the lamest one. It was a suicide. So one of the theories is just that this guy just wanted to kill himself, and that's why he had the Tamám Shud written on the piece of paper saying, "It's over, it's done, I've killed myself." But the problem with that theory is why the tags removed, why all the identification removed, why make your identity remain a mystery? And it doesn't answer the question of what was with the code.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say that would be the cleanest theory, but again, I mean, unless this guy really just didn't want to be found, why would you remove any identifying markers, right? Like if you are
yeah,
going to off yourself, wouldn't I don't know, yeah, it's just strange. Okay. So
yeah.
maybe the cleanest theory. It's got a few holes, but okay,
Mhm.
that's one theory.
The
Got
next
it.
one is a broken romance. Some say he may have been searching for Justine. The poetry, the time, the seaside death. It could have just been like he was looking for this woman, and it didn't work out, and he killed himself. Again, doesn't explain the code. Explains the poetry, but doesn't really explain the code. Now, the biggest theory that explains everything is that he was a Cold War spy. Cold War was just kicking off. Adelaide was near sensitive military facilities. We've got the code, we've got the untraceable poison, and we've got his identity be completely erased. So a lot of people think that he was possibly a Cold War spy sent for espionage. But who knows? You know? So those are the theories. But we did have recently where we do consider this case possibly solved. For the first time on Beyond the Campfire, we actually have a case to where we have all these theories and we might actually have it solved.
Oh man, here we go. Oh, this.
While on episode. Okay. So they took DNA evidence from this.
Right.
And they were able to point to it possibly being this guy by the name of Carl Charles Webb,
Okay.
who's a Melbourne electrical engineer and instrument maker. This was identified by researchers Derek Abbott and Colleen Fitzpatrick in 2022, linking him to a family tree and explaining some clues like the Tamám Shud poem and code as related to horse racing. Now, however, official confirmation from the coroner is pending, and questions about his final moments and exact cause of death remain partially unanswered. So we possibly have the name of the guy, and we think the code book was just about horse racing. But again, there's still some unanswered questions like how did he die? What was the poison? So
okay. But hey, I mean, it's nice to know a name. It's nice to know what this code means. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any family still holding out hope for where he was or what happened to him. But, at least in that sense, you can maybe have some closure for them, right?
yeah.
Because I'm going to presume this Carl guy was missing from wherever he had been, and his family just didn't know. But now with this new DNA evidence, it's just like, oh, okay, that was him. We do know what happened to him. We do know where he is, and it's sad. But now we can move on because we can say, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I got. Tamám Shud case, right? Guy washes up dead on the shore, possibly poison. We don't know who we think we know who he was because of DNA evidence now, and that might possibly explain the poem. It might also possibly explain the code that was written on the paper, but that doesn't explain the nurse. And it doesn't explain what really happened to him. So this, while we might have somewhat of a theory on who he is, I don't think we're really going to get a definitive answer.
This case almost reminds me of the Yuba County 5 that we did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's just like, these guys go missing. They're acting very bizarrely their last few moments. and then they find out dead, and you're just like, how did this happen? Um, so yeah, hold your loved ones close. Be careful out there, and yeah, I mean that's really all I got as well.
Do you have any idea what you think it could be? Do you think it could be Cold War? Do you think it could be suicide? What theory do you lean into?
Yeah, obviously the Cold War stuff would be very interesting. I think he probably did kill himself and he didn't want to be found out, which is why he removed the identification.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about who Carl was, right? And like,
Yeah, it's just to me like I don't get the suicide because it's like I feel like if you're gonna kill yourself, you don't really sit there and think, okay, let me remove the tags from my clothing, let me remove my wallet, let me do all this stuff so I can't be identified. You know what I mean?
so you think he's a Cold War guy then maybe?
I'm thinking a little towards the Cold War spy stuff, man, because it's like, if you're part CIA, you probably would have most of your identity like removed, and it's like, okay, it was horse racing, sure, bud, whatever you say. I don't know. It's just strange because, like I said, like they said, okay, based off his organs, he possibly died of poison, but it's like there's nothing near his body to show that he threw up because poison would upset your stomach enough to make you throw up. And then we have the witnesses saying they see a guy dumping a body. I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah, no, it's weird, for sure. So
Yeah. Anything else before we close out?
that's all I got, man.
Well, he died with no name, no past, a message that meant the end.